Hey everyone, so I brought an interesting guest today. Hope you guys will like him. Tell us a little bit about yourself, mate.
Okay, well, as you know, and as the title is saying here, I'm my name is Yakov. I'm a sci-fi writer, and sci-fi and fantasy, really. Um, Independent sci-fi writer because the publishing industry is a leftist disaster at the moment. So I decided before I even got in there to not go because I saw the writing on the wall even like 5 years ago already, and so I've been writing on my own. I just put out my fourth novel actually last week, and three in the same series, a space opera series, and then one in a fantasy trilogy that came out back in the fall. And I'm doing that all from Israel, basically. It's where I've lived for the last 2.5 years, and I'm in the army here right now, so that's why I'm basically being paid by the army to write my books currently because my job is very boring. So it's
So,
worth
so,
it.
so here's the question, right? Like all I know about sci-fi, and the case of writing is that the Hugo Awards were co-opted by the left, right?
Yeah.
And the right made these things called the sad poppies, and the reason they call themselves the sad poppies is because they were bored with works of sci-fi that would make puppies sad, because most of like the
Yeah.
leftist thing were very depressing, they were very gloomy, and they decided to make the how should I call it, the movement called the sad puppies, in order to actually vote people based on merit. And there were a lot of people that got prizes that year. Some of them were people of color, some of them were not. It was like if you had a good work of art, if you had a good book, you would get the prize. And I remember the left was livid about it because there were a lot of people of color that they thought should win, and they didn't win because people went and vote, and it kind of screwed with the results. It screwed with the grand scheme of things. Did they make any way to prevent people from doing that?
Yeah, they did actually a couple of years ago change the rules to make it harder to do that. I don't remember the exact details, but basically the sad puppies thing is basically over now. Like the point was proven. The main point, also part of it, was to prove that the awards are not for merit, that they're based on politics and all that nonsense. So like the people who were in charge of it kind of decided it wasn't worth the trouble anymore. Even Vox Day, who was doing his own parallel thing called Rabbit Puppies, he also, I don't know if he's even bothering to do with that anymore because it just became like a pointless old meme also at this point. And the Hugos are just basically irrelevant. Everyone who cared about the Hugos now basically cares about the Dragon Awards because that's a much more open award and a much more representative of actual good works award.
I remember
So
George R. R. Martin was upset about the sad poppies, which again they were like
yeah,
people who did nothing wrong, like they followed the rules, and they voted based on the actual merit of the book rather than the political leanings of the author.
yeah, that's basically what they want. I mean, they, like I said, part of the point was to prove that the Hugos are basically not voted on for merit. They're voted on for politics, for representation.
Yeah,
Um,
representation.
and it's just this. I mean, the Hugos like practically nuked themselves to keep them from winning. There was one year I think there were like 5 categories where they voted to not give an award because they didn't like anybody that was nominated.
Hmm.
So that's how far they're willing to go to do that. And the year after that was when they decided to start changing the rules to make it a little bit harder to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about artistic freedom, right? Like, if I want to write a story about two guys that are in an elevator, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's like, hold on, this is not diverse enough. Like, I need to have one of the guys that are black, and it's not LGBT inclusive. I need to have like one of the guys that is maybe either trans or gay or stuff like that. Because if you don't have that, then you're not going to get the journalists write about you. You're not going to get any sort of words. It's better if I actually write my piece and then give it to like a black woman to publish it, and she can claim that she's the author.
Yeah, it's worse. It's even worse than that. There was just this last week. There was a story like a Chinese immigrant to America wrote a book, a fantasy novel that had in the book it had slavery in it, and there's also like a world where she said in that world they don't discriminate based on skin color; they discriminate based on magic or something like that.
Mhm.
And like there was a YA book, young adult book, and basically all the people in that genre like started dogpiling her and attacking her as a racist because there was slavery in her book or something like that, and basically she capitulated to that very quickly, and she basically put out a message on Twitter a couple of days ago saying she asked her publisher not to publish the book until further notice. Like, this is a person, she got like a 6-figure advance for 3 books, and she's now basically destroyed her own career because she's scared of people attacking her for that. And it's like, this is the person who's a progressive herself. She's like fully on the anti-Trump train and all of that, because that's just how it is these days. And she still got attacked by all these people. Now she basically killed her own career before it even started.
Yeah, it is. It is very interesting, and in a way, I don't have any mercy for these people. It's like, if they made their bed, they can sleep in it.
Yeah, they're eating themselves.
But I think, like, the slavery thing, right? When I played The Witcher, especially the first game, there's a lot of racism in it, and it kind of opens your eyes on how bad the racism is, because you get to experience it. You know, it's different when you're playing a game and you're actually, rather than being told that racism is bad, you get to see, you know, the effects that it's having on the people in that world. But I guess it's not very progressive, right? Like, it's not, you shouldn't have it now, because that's
basically. It's basically, at this point, everyone it's so sensitive to everything. Because I don't know if you've heard of this before. It's a thing called sensitivity readers now that people use for science fiction and fantasy books. Where, like, people that you're allegedly supposed to hire and pay money to basically read your book and tell you what's offensive.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Of view. No, it's been around for like over a year or two now. This is a real thing.
How much do they cost? Like, how much does a sensitivity reader cost?
I don't know. I never looked into it. All like my reaction to that was to, like, there were some people wanted to do the opposite, to hire insensitivity readers to make sure things are offensive. Like,
but like, I'm genuinely curious, right?
Yeah.
Is there, like, some quality control? Like, if I hire a sensitivity reader and he tells me the book is okay, and then when I sell it, people still get offended?
Oh, probably not.
Yeah.
Because they'll say you have to hire the wrong sensitivity reader. You have to hire one for Black issues, one for Asian issues, one for gay issues. I don't know. It never ends.
No, it's hold on, let me just change the title. Talking about the sci-fi book world, or how should I say it?
I guess publishing or books.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's gotten to the point where all of these things, I think, are not only a money sinkhole, but I wouldn't be shocked. And I have no evidence of this, but I wouldn't be shocked if these sensitivity readers won't turn it into a racketeering market. In other words, hire us, or, you know, we'll keep our people at bay.
Yeah. Or it's basically extortion.
Yeah, it is extortion, right? It's like that meme with Anita Sarkeesian going in a store and saying, "Oh, nice place you have here. It would be a shame if someone would call you a racist." You know?
Yeah.
They did that in video games, I remember. Like, back in the day when Gamergate was a thing, they found out that there were a couple of businesses. I forgot the name of it, but basically you would hire them to make sure that your game is diverse, right? And if you didn't hire them, they would you would have, like, social justice activists just complain about your game, and if you hired them and they gave you the get-go, then it was less likely that you'd have people being offended about your game.
It's basically the same in every aspect of culture now. All of the media, in comics, we have it too. We have it in books. We have it in video games. It's
in video
everywhere.
games, it's much worse, in my opinion, because you get Rotten Tomatoes, and usually the contract, the publisher will say, right, we're going to give you like $10 million to make a game, and then they have, like, conditions. If it gets an aggregate score of 7, you guys get a sequel. If it gets an aggregate score of 8, you guys get a bonus, right? And you don't really make the game for the audience anymore. You make it for the for the journalists. You make a game that the video game journalists like to play, so that it gets so that you as a developer can get a chance of a sequel.
Yeah, if you have to have the party approve, you have to have the mob approve of what you're doing in order for the business to not die. I mean, in publishing, it's almost worse in some ways, because in publishing, even to get in, if somebody wants to get in with a publisher, to get even with an agent, like, the amount of agents or publishers that will even take somebody who's openly not far left is like hand, not even one hand. You have just a couple of fingers and you're done. Like, at this point, that's why everybody that I know, all the writer friends that I have, pretty much, except for maybe one or two, are doing it on their own through Amazon, or doing it through Castelli House, which is owned by Vox Day. So because he does his own thing, he would for sure not be able to get into publishing house anywhere. So he did his own thing.
So is this why like a lot of comic book writers and video game developers on Twitter, all they talk is politics to show to people that they're really far left?
Yeah. It's their virtue signaling to themselves to make sure that they stay in the good graces of the mob, of the social justice crowd, because they know the minute they do anything wrong, like this Chinese woman, the Chinese immigrant woman to America, who's like also left wing. Like she did one little thing in her book, she didn't say anything political on her own. It was just a topic in the book that's addressed in a negative. Like the book is not saying slavery is good; it's saying slavery is bad because it is bad. And she still got attacked, and she still basically capitulated and almost basically canceled her own book because she was so scared of it.
Yeah, but I mean, like the people on Twitter, like the comic book pros, right? They constantly talk about politics more than CNN. And I think, like, if you don't talk, like, if you would be a comic book publisher and you don't say anything about politics, that might be viewed suspicious.
Yeah, because I know for sure, like, authors who don't talk politics, there are definitely people who, like, will ask around, like, saying, do you know what this person thinks on this? Like, the people some authors I know who are like that, they're usually successful enough. It doesn't matter at this point. But definitely people ask these questions around, like, at least, like, in, like, the chat groups or whatever, like, they want to know what people think because they know if you say the wrong thing, they're going to come after you. I mean, that's, again, it's part of the reason why I decided not to bother going in. There were a few years when I was younger. I maybe like at this point, it's almost like 8-9 years ago that I was wanting to get published by a regular publisher because that was, as far as I knew, the way to do it back then. It was before self-publishing got a little bit easier the last few years. And I wanted to do that. I went to conventions. I went to events. I met a couple editors and other writers and stuff. And I got a little bit far, but I didn't get far enough. And in hindsight, I'm glad that I didn't get in because I probably would have gotten kicked out anyway, just based on what I think. And even now, based on where I live, I might even get kicked out by some of these people. So,
isn't it interesting that now you can actually publish books without the publisher? Like, what do the publishers think about it? The fact that you can bypass them.
No, they don't. If they don't like it, the people who are involved in the mainstream, they often will denigrate self-published books. I mean, there used to be a better reason to that because it used to be a self-publishing people who couldn't get published would do that, and they would then not edit their books and not care to make them good, so they would be bad. But now, self-published books arguably are as good, if not better, in a lot of cases than regular published books. And at this point, they're just scared that they're losing the control because, like you said, they can't control what we're doing. They can't enforce their own terms or anything on what we write. And so it's just beyond, we're past the gatekeepers at this point, and they really can't do anything about it aside from yelling about it online for certain people who they don't like, who are big enough to be targets. They could attack them and things like that. But it's a big opportunity for people who want to just write good books.
I think like they can still attack Amazon. Like they can make sure that your book gets taken off Amazon if they really don't like it.
Yeah, no, they tried. It actually just happened also a couple of days ago. Somebody, we think, as far as I know, is a rogue employee at Amazon who basically deleted everything, all the ebooks from Vox Day's publishing company. Like all of a sudden they were just gone, and Amazon wasn't paying royalties on the books, and it was just like out of nowhere. I mean, I think it got fixed as of yesterday. But that was after like Vox Day got people to start calling them or emailing them about this, and he obviously got in contact with them. It's happened before with him too. A book he published also got taken down by an Amazon employee, not acting for the company, acting on their own because it's a leftist employee, presumably, to try and do that. So for now, Amazon seems to be more interested in making money than on enforcing stuff, but that might change. So everyone, especially with this last week when this happened a couple of days ago, everybody got very scared because if Amazon starts going that way, a lot of us have nowhere else viable to go, really. So
I think like the only way it would be if you would just get like emails from people and you would deliver the book yourself.
Yeah, that's what people could do. I mean, you can't do that. Can be done. People have email lists that are pretty big. Some authors build those up and or create your own publishing company. Like that's what Vox Day did. He made his own publishing company. Like he runs it himself. He edits a lot of the books himself. Like with the people that he brings on to the publishing house, and I think he's able to sell his books, at least the print version.
Did he get a lot of backlash? Like, did people try to stop him?
I don't know. I don't know. This was a while ago, and it's based in like Finland, I think. So like it's far from the reach of a lot of these people online and stuff. And I think it's been around for years now. So as far as I know, he's not in any danger with his own company. But obviously, he still sells books on Amazon because that's where most people buy books these days is Amazon. So if you lose Amazon, you lose. Like, he'd basically be able to sell to all of his fans. But if he loses Amazon, then no one else is going to see his books basically unless he starts figuring out a new way to sell or market them or
Yeah,
things
it's
like that.
interesting because Amazon owns Twitch, if I'm not mistaken, and Twitch is incredibly leftist. Like it's very left. And it is good to hear that at least on Amazon they're not infested with the leftist ideology yet.
Yeah, again, that's the big word here.
Yeah, no, because the thing is, I noticed that this is what the left does. Like they don't care about the government. They bypass it. They just want to basically like control what people think by using the private company. So they will co-op.
Yeah.
For example, MasterCard and PayPal right now they're very left leaning.
Also Indiegogo also like with or Kickstarter did that too a couple times in the last few months.
Yeah, and it's not about what people do or the actions that people do, is what they say or what they think. And sometimes like it's not even that. Like I'm looking at Ethan Van Sciver. He published a book, or no, wait, it wasn't Ethan. It was his friend, my boy Zach. Yeah, my boy Zach. He publishes a book that's not even political, and the stores, like the actual brick and mortar stores, don't want to sell it because they don't like the guy. And it's not because of his politics. It's because he's criticizing Marvel and he's criticizing DC.
Yeah, well, it's all connected. Everyone, like, they're all part of the same problem, and just different parts of the same problem.
Different parts of the same problem is a nice way of putting it. Yeah. So apparently, there's rumors that they're going to cancel Star Trek Discovery. Have you heard about it?
I've heard the rumors. I haven't followed it that carefully. I mean, if they cancel it, then it's mercy killing.
Mercy killing.
At this point, I mean, I watched the first season because I wanted to see the train wreck in motion, and I didn't bother watching second season, at least for now. Maybe I'll watch it at some point. I'm not going to pay for it, of course. But I don't know. I just I guess like every single genre that I grew up as a fan of, all of these like big franchises are all dying in front of me now. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, I think what they do is they, instead of trying to create their own thing, they look at something that is successful and has a fan base. And then they say, okay, well, we can take that, and because it's popular, we can push our ideas and our politics through it.
Yeah.
And most of the times, like their politics isn't accepted by people. Like they're forcing it through.
Yeah, and then it dies. Like and then they just abandon it, and then it's dead, and then you move on to the next target. Like
intersectionality is not a very liberal politic, and I think like people feel it. Like people feel the tyranny in it, if you will. And they don't like it. They reject it. And it's not just the tyranny, it's the thing that it doesn't make sense. Like, for example, part of intersectionality is that men and women are exactly the same.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, they should be the same under the law. But obviously, like socially, it's why a man shouldn't hit a woman, because they're not equal. And when you push like this idea, like you make the star of the show a woman called Michael Burnham, just to to show to people, look,
just because
there's absolutely no difference between like people will not like that. They will look at it and go like, ugh.
Then they start ruining the history of the franchise. Like they're ruining it with like messing with Spock now and Star Trek Discovery, and obviously Star Wars did the same thing with all the old characters.
And it's also the vibe of the show. Like I remember, it's not necessarily having to do with politics, but there was Stargate, right? Like you watched Stargate Atlantis and SG-1, right?
Not entire. I've watched episodes. I haven't watched the entire thing, but I'm
okay. Well, I am pretty sure the chat knows about it. But after SG-1 and Atlantis got canceled, they decided to make Stargate Universe. And back then, there was like Battlestar Galactica, which was immensely popular. And they said, let's make Stargate like Battlestar Galactica. So they took away the things which made Stargate, and they turned it into this soap opera on a spaceship.
Yeah.
Right? And the fans hated it because, even though as a standalone thing was good, when you look at it, it wasn't good because it wasn't Stargate. And it's the same thing with Star Trek, right? Like if you just take an IP, like why not do what the original IP was setting out to do? Like Orville, for example. Orville. Right? Why not make it like Orville? Instead, you're just making what you want it to be. And if you make it what you want it to be, just create a new thing.
Yeah, it's what they But they want to use the old thing because that's the name recognition, and they get more money that way because people will watch it because it's the thing they like. And people would say, the people I've seen online say you should watch all the new Star Wars because if you like Star Wars, you have to watch it. Like they don't care. People who don't care what it is, it just if it has the name on it that they like, they'll watch it, and then that's what they're counting on to make money. Doesn't always work, of course.
I mean, here's the thing. I actually like the new Star Trek. I know it's heresy, but I'm not a Trekkie, right? Like I'm not a Trekkie fan. But the visuals were stunning. I think it raised the bar when it comes to what can be done in a sci-fi show. And now every single show that comes out after Star Trek Discovery, I expect them to at least follow the bar. I know a lot of people.
Yeah, if it was called Space Show, like if it was a different name, I probably wouldn't have as much of a problem with it. Like just because it's Star Trek, is what's the problem?
Pretty much. No, I get what you're saying, right? And they kind of explained a lot of the things that didn't make sense. So the reason they were evil and they weren't like Star Trek is because they were being led by people from the evil universe. Yeah. And the whole thing with the blink ability, like the teleportation drive, apparently the reason you don't find it in the continuity is because they destroy the labyrinth through which you could do that. Like they tried to explain a lot of the things. And I also like the fact that when they were getting beaten by Klingons, they actually got like the fascist captain from the other universe. And it's like, well, you're a fascist. You conquered your universe. Can you lead the war for us? And the fascist captain was actually winning. Like they started, the moment they put someone that's not interested in moral fagging, they actually started managing to push the Klingons back. So I like that, but I get it. It's not Star Trek. Right?
Yeah, they have the same kind of stories in Deep Space Nine. They also and there are times in that war and that show where they went against what Starfleet is supposed to do to win the war, and that was interesting. They did it, but it still felt like Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like now, it's just like it's a show. Again, if it wasn't called Star Trek, I wouldn't hate it so much. But like the fans doing better projects than there. That's why CBS had to crack down on all the fan projects because they knew people like that better. With Axanar, that they had the whole lawsuit, and also Star Trek Continues. That was a fan show based on they recreated the sets in the original Star Trek and made a show that looks good, looks fine now, even though they use the old style looking sets and they somehow made it work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, Greg also with Star Wars Theory made his fan film a little while ago that also it's better than what Disney is making now, and it's funny how that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, another reason why it puts people off is the press conferences that they give, and it's like, we're going to make the Klingons and all of this be like Trump, and it's showing the evils of an isolation policy, blah blah blah. And okay, but you realize that Trump supporters aren't going to like your movie now.
Yeah, it's like they're cutting off like a chunk of their audience just because.
Yeah, I mean the old Star Trek didn't do that. Like the old Star Trek wasn't like, oh yeah, if you're with Clinton, we don't like you, or if you like Bush, we don't like you. They never did that. Or if you're a religious person, we don't like you.
Yeah, I mean, even if they had an episode that you could read into it themes about something political, it wasn't in your face the same way, and it was people didn't hate it.
No, and they had both sides of politics. They had the I remember there was right-wing politics. For example, in Voyager, they had an episode where they talk about fake rape accusations and how damaging they can be. They also had a show where there was this pacifist woman that was winning the elections in the United States, and she wanted to destroy all of the America's weapons. And after she does that, America gets conquered by, I believe, Russia, if I'm not mistaken. So
that was a classic episode. That was an old episode. That was one of the most famous episodes of Star Trek.
So you had issues from both sides of the aisle. It wasn't just left-leaning politics.
Yeah, and it's there's a way to do it. Every book is going to have something somewhat political in it just because of people who write the books or who write the shows. Everyone comes from a different point of view, so it's going to be there. It's just a matter if you force it or if you're trying to make an agenda, and then people will see that and then they'll hate it. And then they might buy it anyways for a while. But
they constantly say it's like, oh, there was always politics in comic books, and it's like, okay, well, let's think about a way that everyone knows. It's like the first Marvel Civil War, right? You get the idea of should superheroes be able to have anonymity.
Yeah.
And it was a political issue at the time because of the Patriot Act. And people were like, well, should the government have the ability to just interfere into people's lives at that level? And you have on one hand Tony Stark, which represents the corporations, and he's like, yeah, totally, like the government should be able to know every superhero. And then you have Captain America, which represents the values of the Americans, and they're like, no, humans, the citizens do have a right for anonymity. And then there's the battle between them, and there's no clear winner, right? It's up to the reader to interpret who exactly do they want to win. Is it Captain America or is it Iron Man? And that was like a great way of doing politics. It's not like in your face. It doesn't preach to you like, no, this guy is definitely right. The other one is definitely wrong. And if you don't agree, you're a bigot.
People say something about X-Men, about how it was about people who are marginalized or whatever. Like some people say it was about gays, some people say it was about Jews. Like they make all different kind of theories about who it's representing and what it's trying to say, but it's not telling you what to think. And that's what everyone has.
And the thing with X-Men is that even the people who are afraid of the mutants had a point, because you got like Magneto. It's not like they were completely bigoted and irrational. It's like, no, like there was a point in fearing the mutants because
they're dangerous.
Yeah, like you have Apocalypse, which was a mutant and almost destroyed the world. Like there was definitely a reason for concern there.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense. And so I mean, it's obviously different than that. So that's why you have to you can have the little bit of political reference or to have the social commentary, but also you have to make sure it doesn't take over the story. You have to have the story comes first, and then whatever comes from there comes from there. You can have little allegories or things like that, and then as long as it doesn't take over. Like I remember it was a book I read years ago. Like it was a book series that I liked when I was younger, like a YA series, and like the fourth book in the series, all of a sudden the author wrote it was much shorter than the other books. It was like much shorter. And it was basically like a global warming PSA. And like that killed my enjoyment of the series, because this book was just like literally posing as book 4 in the series, when it was basically just a giant PSA about global warming is bad. And then that was the whole book. And it was it was so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, like you can do politics in a great way, like Captain Planet. Like that was an interesting show. That let's be honest, it was leftist environmentalist propaganda. Yeah. But it still had like relatable characters, and it was still fun to watch.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as a kid. Like I watched it. I mean, care about the environment isn't necessarily like a bad. It depends how far you go and like controlling people's lives and stuff like that. But like, obviously, picking up garbage is a good idea. Not polluting the air is like obviously a good idea. So like, there is obviously like a middle ground. You can have things that messages and stuff, as long as you're not forcing it to make it the whole thing about it. Like people are trying to, I guess what we're trying to do now. People I know, a lot of people, I'm going to give like a little shout out to people who I write with, like call it the Pulp Revolution or Pulp Rev. It's like I have a hashtag on Twitter about it. It's basically people who want to try and recapture like the fun and the adventure and the excitement of older style science fiction and fantasy works, like stuff like by Edgar Rice Burroughs, like Robert E. Howard, like people who wrote Princess of Mars or Tarzan, and those kind of stories. And like those are just fun adventures that just don't care so much about the politics. They don't care about trying to push anything. They don't even care about they don't get overly obsessed with little details about with science.
Yeah, I really despise the thing that they constantly say. It's like everything is political. It's like, no. That's in your head, right? Like if you want to see politics in everything, you will. But for example, in Tarzan, like I don't see the politics in Tarzan. Like maybe there are politics if you look deep enough, but it doesn't. Like if you read Tarzan, you don't know if you should vote for Trump or you should vote for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. Again, people can read whatever they wanted to it. Like, obviously, when you have like a war, like in the Mars stuff, like there's wars going on and fighting, so you could decide. You could like read it yourself and decide who you want to think each side represents in the real world. But like, he's not telling you what to think. He just wants to write, and they just want to write books and sell books and have fun. And that's what I'm doing. That's what people that I know are doing, because we enjoy it. It's like I'm writing at this point to write stuff that I like to read, because everything that I liked is dying. Like Star Wars, Star Trek, Mass Effect, like all these franchises that I liked like for a long time are basically dead to me now, or dead. They just killed themselves. And
I'm genuinely surprised why no one wants to do anything with Captain Planet.
Yeah, you would think people would today. It'd be very
easy. Like I would definitely see Captain Planet punch Trump, going to the White House and punching Trump for taking America out of the Paris Agreement or some shit like
Yeah.
that. Like that would be something that leftists would do. Get Mati into the White House and he sees Trump and goes like heart, and it's like, oh no, his heart is too evil. I can't. We need to call Captain Planet. He called Captain Planet to stop Trump from doing things. Meanwhile, China is laughing. China
Yeah.
powers Captain Pollution over there, and then go like shit.
Yeah, I'm shocked they haven't done that. I don't know why. That's very weird.
Yeah, like they go with Thundercats. They go with like all these, Princess Shira, like all these things that weren't made to be political, but you got like this overly political show waiting right there for you to grab it. Like literally, no one will get upset if Captain America punches Trump. If Mother Gaia goes there with her tits coming out of that cloth, and she's going, it's like, yeah, you need to stop. You need to stop, Republicans. You're evil. You're killing me.
Yeah, so I'm actually shocked now that they haven't done it. I guess they want more to like take over things that weren't political. They don't care about what already was political. I don't.
Yeah, it's like get Trump to have his Legion of Space Marines fight Captain Planet. Oh my god! And they would be like, "Oh, the European Union is this great space," like the Joseph Diaz for $4.99. First super chat for tonight. X-Men is about a group of people curb stomping a Holocaust survivor. Do you know that like there was this push that some moron journalists did, and the thing with them is that once one of them pushes it, like the other have to. Yeah. They form ranks, right? Like they can't call each other like retards. Like if one journalist does something stupid, the other ones just pretend it's the most amazing shit and they do it as well. Yeah. And they were asking for Magneto to be more diverse. And people were like,
are you serious?
And people were like, well, he's Jewish and he's a Holocaust survivor. And that,
but most Jews are too white today, so they don't count anymore.
This is Sargon's theory that the women's march is too white, is what they really wanted to say, is that the women's
too Jewish.
I'm
perfectly happy they fight each other because all the leftist Jews, I don't like them either. So if they fight each other, it's okay with me.
Man, like the right-wing Jews are so intelligent. Let me put it like that. Like there was this movement in Israel where you got like some right-wing Jews going to immigrants and telling them, "Oh yeah, this left-wing guy, he's an open-door policy. He's an open-door kind of guy." Like he said, he will allow you to go into your house, into his house, if you just, and they gave the address, and then they would videotape how the immigrants would go to this millionaire's house, right? And they would knock at the door, and they would be turned around, and it's like, well, he doesn't seem like an open door kind of guy, does he?
Yeah, I heard about that. That's some funny stuff.
Vulvodinia for $2. She's got glasses and she's looking at me all judgmental. You taking on social justice warrior sci-fi, it's ruined the library.
Yeah, basically. I mean, my library now is books that I'm buying just from authors that I know. Because like
it's really not that bad. I mean, I don't really read sci-fi that much. I used to when I was a kid, but why is it bad now? Like, is it like video games type of bad, like comic books type of bad?
Yeah. I mean, it's something that's been building over a long time already. It's been like they got their claws into sci-fi like years ago, like over 10, 20 years ago already, at least, if not more. Like the whole mainstream like fandom scene in sci-fi is very, very degenerate. Like there's a book about it. Like there are a lot of like pedophiles or like it was like it's like a terrible like mess, and they basically have gotten their control over it for a long time now. Like it's only become more obvious the last several years with the Hugo stuff and with people like getting attacked for topics in books and things like that. But it's something that's been around for a while. Even when I went to events before, I knew about how bad it was. Like you would still like obviously at events, I hear them making jokes about like Republicans just because it's what they do, and like it just is expected at this point. Like you said, the Sad Puppies was not even as much to change anything, more as it was to show how it's basically like one little like a clique of people who basically took over it to push their agenda, and that's it. And
yeah, and I guess like the awards, they're not really for merit.
Yeah.
They're as uh, uh, the way I understand it is that a lot of leftists, for example, when they go to NGOs and stuff like that, they will get them like they will be asked to publish a book, right? And
Yeah.
they publish a book, and the book gets an award, and then they can go to a university to teach, and they have in their resume, it's like, look, the reason the university hired me is because it's an award author or some shit like that, you know, or they will appear in a journal, like in a newspaper, and it's going to be like award-winning author, blah blah blah, and here's what they
Yeah.
think about this subject. And it just so happens that they think exactly what the journal thinks, but
Yeah, imagine that.
yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of a way to make like, because like there was a joke with like English departments and stuff I studied. Took a few writing classes years ago before I switched to history as a major, but like there are a lot of basically very bitter failed writers who teach creative writing classes in colleges. So it's like you're getting taught by people who failed and who are just angry at people who did better than they did, and then that's just who is teaching the new generation of writers for people who naively think they could go to college and learn how to write. Like I honestly learned a lot more about writing just from writing on my own than from classes that I took, because they're just trying to push the one way they like, and then that's it.
I
So
mean, a best example of what I just said earlier is with David Hogg, right? Like you get
yeah,
David Hogg on television, and he says, "Our parents don't know how to fucking do democracy, so it's time for us to teach our parents how to properly vote," you know, or something like
yeah,
that. Like CNN would never be able to say something like that without losing advertisers or losing ratings, right?
yeah,
Like that is a very outrageous thing to say. But because David Hogg said it, it's like, well, he's just a kid, you know. Don't.
yeah. You can't attack a kid. You can only attack kids if they wear MAGA hats.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a tactic that I see them use. Like they will bring a sci-fi author or someone else, like a tertiary person, and it's like, well, it's an award-winning author. Look what they think. You know, like look
Yeah,
at the opinions of what's her name, the one with Harry Potter.
yeah. J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, like J.K. Rowling has some of the most abhorrent and most regressive opinions that you can find on Twitter, right? And a
Yeah,
lot of people cite her, and they get away with it because it's like, well, it's not our opinion; it's what J.K. Rowling has to say.
yeah. It's convenient, convenient way to do it.
Yeah, and I think in a way they also want to control this market because it, being an author, I think it's mostly based on merit, right? And becoming a successful author means that you're going to reach thousands upon hundreds of thousands, potentially millions
Yeah,
of people. And they want to make sure that the people who reach that place have the right opinions and the right ideas.
yeah,
Because if you actually allow someone like Vox Day, for example, to influence public opinion, then you lose some of that power that you had as a gatekeeper.
yeah. Absolutely. So that's why. I mean, to basically be a good author, you need. I mean, it's not even just writing at this point. You also have to be good at marketing. I mean, that's what a lot of us are not so good at. So that's the hard part, is to just find ways to get our books out. Because again, most of us only sell books on Amazon because we can't get our books in the stores because we don't have a
Yeah.
publisher, we don't have a distributor. So it's limited options.
I mean, Game of Thrones, I wouldn't know how good it is until I saw it on television, you know? Like, I wouldn't know.
Yeah,
And I bet a lot of people would have never purchased the book. Same with Lord of the Rings, you know? Like, in
yeah,
Romania, I have no idea that even exists. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of amazing books right now that are out there, and they're written by great authors, but I would never know about them because they don't talk about them. And you won't have, like, the journalists and the media cover those books either.
yeah. Of course not. I mean, like all the writers that I know, like nobody gets covered anywhere. Everyone has to do their own thing, do it with collaborate with each other on promotion and things like that. And then that's, I guess we have to. I mean, we're building it ourselves. At basically at this point, from the bottom up, almost like a community, or not really a community, but more like a network of people who won't attack us for just our political views or things like that.
Yeah, Vulvodinia for $2 again, like her avatar is looking at me, judging me. Library buys 12 sci-fi books per month, all social justice crap. This is another thing. It's the market is super saturated. Like people are so sick and tired of the same, social justice talking points.
Yeah.
I remember the new promo for Supernatural. Like you have all these actors saying, "Oh, Supernatural is inclusive to all people, to all colors, to all creeds, to all blah blah blah." Buzzword, 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 buzz. And then like the 100 did another skit just like that, and it seems so fake, so plastic. It's like I do not believe you for 1 second. You know, it's like you're
Yeah.
just talking out of your ass.
Yeah, the problem with libraries also is the libraries, they're buying their books from the publishers. And that's how who they go to find out what they should get, what people are reading. But then they just buy the publishers are all putting out the same kind of stuff, the same like morally like more relativism, like they do like there's also like a big lack of characters who are decent people anymore. Like a lot of people that I know complain about this too, and it's something that I've noticed too. Like, a lot of the heroes, like Game of Thrones, did this first as like something different, but now it's become almost the norm in a lot of sci-fi and fantasy, where the main character is like not a good person, and you're supposed to like them because it's just edgy and dark, while somehow still making it politically correct. But also like a lot of that is also what we've lost. It's just lost the
See,
positivity that they.
I don't necessarily mind that. Like, I think that's like in Game of Thrones, I kind of like it because you have like the characters with their own ambitions, and they're more like real people rather than things you should aspire to be. And I actually hate that the showrunners didn't get that. And if you look at the show right now, you got the good people with Daenerys, and you got the bad people with Cersei.
Yeah,
And now
basically.
they just made into the classic good versus evil type of thing.
Yeah, because they killed off Stannis.
Yeah, they killed off Stannis, and not only that, but they're trying to make Daenerys into a positive character, which she is totally not.
Yeah,
Like if you read the books, you don't know if she's going to be a tyrant or not, because like when she goes into Marine, she just kills all the slavers, and then she finds out that she even killed the slavers that were against slavery. You know, like there were nobles that didn't want slavery, and then it's like another moral dilemma. The cities were in the middle of the desert, and slave trade was the only economic boon that they were having. So now people are starving, and they want to go back to slavery. Like in the book, there is this. There's this character who wants to sell himself back into slavery because he's starving to death. And he was pointing out how at least when he was a slave, he was getting food and all. And you know, like none of these things are covered in the show because I guess they're too complex issues, and they don't want to talk about the moral relativism. They just
can you imagine the triggering if somebody on TV wanted to be sold into slavery? Like,
they would never do it. And it's again like it's the whole thing. It's like, oh, like we need to make women strong, and the way they want to make women strong is by making everyone else around them retarded. Like for instance, Sansa Stark, right? She goes into the castle, and there was like this blacksmith that was making armor, and she looks at him and it's like, oh, don't you think you should put the leather on the armor because it's going to be chilly? And and the blacksmith's like, holy shit, my lady, I've been doing this trade for all my life. I have never thought about it. You know, and not to mention the fact that you don't put leather on armor because you need to polish the metal. If you put leather on the metal, you can't polish it. It will rust, you dumb bitch. But,
you're supposed to wear stuff under the armor, and that's what keeps you warm.
Oh,
the same like in Star Wars with what's her name with the pink hair admiral. Like you're just telling people what to do, and she ends up. Ironically, Star Wars: The Last Jedi proved the opposite. They proved that women running things makes it a disaster afterwards.
Yeah, pretty much. Like they were making fun of the fact, like, and this is something that they constantly do. They make the bad guys look like relatable people. Like the normal people are the bad guys, and the good people are the ones with purple hair, and like the ones with armpit hair, and the ones that
they're so incompetent.
Yeah, we're going to release all the animals, even though we're not going to know how they're going to survive once they're released because they've never been into the wild. Like,
they're so incompetent. Like, it's like I've had officers in the army here, like who are 19-year-old girls who have done a better job as admiral than this person in the movie did. Like it's just hilarious. Having
it would have made sense if she would have said, we don't want to disclose the information because we think we got a mole. Like how did the Empire manage to track us through hyperspace? What if we have a mole here or something like that?
Yeah.
And that like we want to keep the plan secret or like anything like that they don't want to do.
Yeah, to say you have a plan, we don't. I'll tell you when it's time. Just trust me for now. Instead, she starts talking down to him, starts basically getting him mad at his toxic masculinity, and then he really leads to disaster at the end. They have 12 people left at the end out of 400.
Yeah,
and there are other ways to fix it too. They could have. Why didn't they all just go in 3 directions? Because they're only tracking from one ship and stuff. Like, they could just all run different directions, and maybe some of them will escape. It's better than 12 people on one ship at the end.
Oh no, there's like so many things wrong with that. It's like why,
Yeah,
why
it's
don't
never
the bad
ending.
guys? Why don't the bad guys just hyperspace in front of them? Well, like why don't
Yeah.
they get the droid to just hyperspace into the bad guys every time a ship runs out of fuel? Like there's so much. There's no point.
Yeah. And basically, Star Wars now gives me a lot of good ideas of things not to do in my books, or things like, or ideas that like ideas that weren't bad in theory, but they did bad in execution that I could just take for myself and make them actually make sense. And like, there's so much material there because it's completely disaster.
No, it's just a load of rubbish, and I genuinely don't know what they're going to do with Star Wars. If they're going to reboot the series, like we don't know anything about the next episode. When is it coming out, by the way?
What, Star Wars?
Yeah,
I think in the winter this year, in December or something.
yeah. Isn't it weird that we got absolutely nothing about the third episode?
Yeah, they're gonna wait as long as they can to do the teaser trailer, then the other trailer, and it's probably not gonna get a trailer until like a full trailer until maybe the spring.
Do you
They're
think they
trying
can even do anything at this point? Like, is there anything that can be salvaged?
I mean, not that they're going to do it. If they just had Grand Admiral Thrawn come back and conquer everybody, that could fix it maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's something that they could do, I guess, like get the Empire to conquer everything and then like start the sequence again.
Yeah, or no, have Thrawn, because Thrawn's like not really an evil character in the same way. So you could, I just want him to rule the galaxy at this point. Like, he really deserves it.
He deserves it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's competent. He's not an evil person on his own, and just he's fun to read. I mean, the only Star Wars books that I've really bought that they made recently were the Thrawn books, because it's the same author who wrote him in the books back in the 90s. And so the same author who still understands Star Wars well, he understands the character well, and so those are the only books that I bothered buying, because he's a character that I like, and the author is still doing a good job with it, so I'll buy it if it's good. If it's not good, I'm not going to buy it. It's very simple.
I agree. Yeah, no, you're right. I genuinely don't know if they're going to be able to salvage. Like, who's going to be the next bad guy? It's like, oh, Ben Solo.
Yeah.
But I fucking like Ben Solo. Like, he's the only character that actually has any resemblance with a real human being in that episode.
Yeah, all the First Order people are just caricatures. They're like cartoon characters. Like, they all like yelling all the time. They don't know how to like run anything. It's like it's amazing how they actually are winning, because they're almost as incompetent as the rebels are at this point.
I mean, Ben Solo actually looks like a kid that had adults fuck with him, like mind fuck with him as a kid. Everyone had expectations of him, and now he doesn't know what the fuck to do and where his place is at. And like that is legitimately the only character that's like a human being from the entire episode.
Yeah, basically, at this point, I'd even take, like I mentioned in the chat, the Yusen Wang stories from like the old.
But those are awesome stories. Those
like,
are
yeah, I didn't like it as much because Star Wars got a little bit too grimdark for me. But like at this point, I take that over this. Like, even that wasn't as bad as what we have now. At least that was enjoyable stories, even if it felt a little bit too dark to be like Star Wars that I enjoy. But it was still well written stories, interesting concepts at least, and it wasn't just terrible.
Oh my god. Yeah. Speaking about grim dark, what do you think about Shaggy? From Scooby-Doo into Mortal Kombat?
I think I don't know. I guess at least they're embracing the meme this time. Like,
oh no, it's confirmed.
Yeah, no, it's fine. That's really funny. I don't know why. I guess. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's one of the things where like people will look back in like 3-4 years and be like, "Why did this happen?" No one's gonna understand.
No, like it's confirmed. Ed Boon said that he's going to have Shaggy into Mortal Kombat, and I'm thinking like, how the fuck are they going to pull it off?
Yeah, I know. Like, what's he gonna do? How's he gonna kill people? What's he gonna like? What's he gonna have?
It's probably going to be like a very ridiculous looking fatality. Like maybe he gives people a Scooby snack, and Scooby just pounces and eats their belly to get to the snack.
Or he forces them to eat like a giant sandwich, and they just like their like faces break off or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be something completely stupid. I remember the Cassie Cage fatality where she just knocks out the opponent's jaw and then takes a selfie with them. Like,
but that's like funny. I mean, if they're just doing it because it's fun, like whatever, then it doesn't. I don't think it matters that much. Just no one's gonna understand why that happened in a few years from now, once the meme dies. Like,
or another cool thing would be if like Shaggy tries to run and the opponent tries to follow them. and he falls into one of the traps by Fred, but it's like a death trap, like.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be funny. I don't know. I'm curious what they'll do. I'll actually like follow it now to see what they're gonna when they release videos and stuff. I really want to see what they do.
I mean, in a way, it's actually high levels of wokeness because a lot of people will buy Mortal Kombat just to play with Shaggy now.
Yeah, well, it's a way to sell. Yeah, it's obviously a marketing idea to sell more copies of the game, and then probably it'll work because they see the fans of the game. Like people wanted him in the game. People wanted they thought it would be fun. So they say, okay, well, fans seem to want that, so we'll do it. Why not? Like,
yeah, I can't believe they didn't add Bowsette in my Nintendo game, but instead we get Shaggy. Like there is no god.
Yeah. Yeah. What's his name? We're adding what's his name? Waluigi to Super Smash. Like.
Yeah. Like people on the internet thought Bowsette would be really cool, and the developers are like, no.
Yeah.
I wonder why the fuck they said no. Like honestly, like when they saw how popular the idea was.
Yeah, you would think it's easy money, but I guess I know in that case you could argue maybe they didn't want like a fan created like idea for the character to put in the game because that might be legal issues, or they might just be like they don't want to mess with their canon, whatever they want to call it at this point. Maybe that might be part of it, but like still, it would have been easy money if they did.
Very easy. I would have bought the Nintendo just for that.
A lot of people would, I think.
That would have been like the forced diversity, Bowsette.
Yeah, but that nobody would have cared because the internet as a whole seemed to like the memes, so nobody would have cared about that one.
No, but because here's the thing, right? Like no one is against gender swapping, but usually when they gender swap, they make a short-haired, very masculine-looking girl, like thick jaw, very manly. Like what they did with Batwoman. Oh my god! And like the atrocity in DC Legends of Tomorrow, they have Batwoman. And
yeah, they basically make male characters that look like women. Is really what they're doing a lot of the time.
Yeah, but it's women that are acting like men. That's the issue.
Yeah.
Like,
no, basically a male character. They just put them in a woman's body. Is basically
exactly. And they're very violent, very aggressive. Like I don't know any woman like that in real life. You can make an argument. It's like, oh, I know someone that's like Tony Stark in real life. I know someone that's like Captain America in real life. Like you would never know someone that's like Rey from Star Wars in real life. I'm talking without the magical powers. Like someone that's good at engineering, someone that knows 3 languages, someone that can beat 4 guys.
My eyes bleed. My eyes. It was like she was like having sex with some like a much lower ranked person in her room, and like someone comes in to talk to her, and she just keeps doing it while talking to this other officer, and it's like this is like completely ridiculous. And it's like it was so bad to read. I don't know how that book got. That's a book that Vox they made like a parody book of. That's why it got taken down at some point. He had to like change the title of it and change the cover. He basically made like a parody book, like making fun of that one because it was just so bad. And this is an author who's like the darling of like the mainstream publishing right now, Scully. And it's like that's the state of things.
Okay, here's the question, right? Could you make a very racist superhero
today?
I mean, that would make sense. Could you make the hero of the story, right? Like a positive character that is extremely racist?
Theoretically, I think it would be hard to pull up. You'd have to like figure out like a setting that it makes sense in. Like maybe someone set like a superhero story like in the 1800s. So you could have a superhero who was racist, but just how people were back then. So it's not like people.
No. It would be in today's time.
Oh, today's time would be much harder. Maybe if the race is against white people, they could do it, and that's
I would make it, and I'm telling you, it would be a very sold book. Like people would love it, but I don't think the publishers would allow it, right? So this is why I'm saying it can be done, and it would be an excellent thing. If you look at Stan Lee, when he created Iron Man, what did he create? He created like Tony Stark, and he's an alcoholic. He's a multimillionaire. He is an arms dealer. He is a warmonger. All of these things back then, when he was created, were things that people despised. Like people hated the arms industry. People hated the rich, and people hated multi-billionaires, right? And he made all of those negative things that he could find, like what society thinks that you shouldn't follow, and put them into this guy. right? And he wasn't
Yeah.
even very Christian either. So I think you could make a character that, let's say, maybe his family gets killed by gang violence or something like that, and it's like
Yeah.
the Bloods or the Crips, right? And then he becomes a superhero later on in life, but he's very racist. Like he legitimately hates people based on skin color. And think about this, right? Like now there's a fire or something, and in that building there's like a black kid with his mom being trapped, and he's a superhero, and he has to like have this inner
Dilemma,
conflict, yeah, like helping these people, even though he is a racist word. Like, wouldn't that make for compelling writing? Wouldn't that make for a
No,
compelling?
of course it would. Yeah, definitely would be. I mean, like that's like you start with like a very flawed character that could be kind of part of his arc or something to like gradually have to change. You have to choose between his own personal opinions on people versus what he wants to do as a hero, and I mean, that'd be really interesting. Like basically, there's really no story idea that you can't do well if you do it well. Like I know an author who did like a challenge. They only challenged somebody about this once, and like they gave him like he said, give me any two topics and I'll combine them and make a good story out of it. And someone gave him Pokemon and the Lost Roman Legion, and he made it into like a 5 book series. That's like I read there's a fun series, and like just to prove that anything you could think of, you could make it into like a idea that works and is fun and is interesting if you just do it the right way and just that's how it should be. But it might meanwhile everyone's trying to limit what you could do now, and it's just like that's part of the reason why like I got part of the reason why like a few years ago when I started to write seriously, I decided you know what, just forget this, and I decided to have no humans in all of my books, and just so that way nobody can even. I mean, they will anyway at some point, but nobody that way it's hard to accuse me of being racist in my books based on race because there's no humans in all of my books. So like, what are you gonna do? I mean, again, they'll find a way.
Well,
To get
they're already pushing for the idea that Lord of the Rings is racist because.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, but that's just why part of the reason why I decided to just just say you know what, forget it. I won't even write about humans because I guess because like everyone it's so toxic at this point. But obviously you could always read into different aliens about different like
Yeah, but
cultures
isn't this horrible? Like you can't write about what you want to write. You have to find these loopholes and these things just
yeah.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, at this point I don't care anymore. Like I mean I'm assuming I'm doing it with my alien just because I find it more fun. I mean all the science fiction that I liked, all the franchises I like, the characters I like the most were the aliens anyway, because they're more interesting usually. So I decided, you know what, I'll just make everybody aliens because I like them more. It's more fun. Like you see all my book covers, like all.
Well, you cut off. I think. I think you disconnected. Right. So we
I
lost.
hate everybody equally.
Oh,
So
you're back now. You got
okay.
disconnected for a little bit.
And I decided I just hate all humans equally and have none of them in my books.
Yeah, but
Like,
that's also something that they won't buy. Like.
no, of course they won't. No, I mean I just do I do it now because I just enjoy alien characters in my sci-fi. Like, all the characters, my favorite ones in Star Trek and Star Wars and Mass Effect and everything were always the aliens anyway.
Yeah.
So I decided, I'm just going to write what I enjoy, and that's what I'm doing.
Right. So let's see if there's anything else I would like to cover. Yeah, the whole thing with like the anime that came out. I don't know if you know the one with the Shield Hero, right?
Yeah, I'm watching that now. I'm really enjoying. I decided.
Let me tell you what's funny, right? Because I don't know if you know this, right? Apparently, like the topic of false rape accusations is what people are were livid about, and it turns out like a woman that was from one of these comics that apparently they're supposed to be for anime fans, but like the writers all have in common the fact that they despise anime. She was like very livid about how dare you like complain about false rape accusations that never happened. And now she's involved in a scandal that she falsely accused someone of rape.
Of course.
And I was like, oh my god, that can't be real. Like that.
Yeah, this timeline is the best. It's so much fun. Every time this happened, it's so much fun.
Like, imagine like this is something I would read in an Onion. Like, woman who falsely accuses someone of rape is livid that the anime talks about false rape.
Yeah, I hadn't watched anime in years. I just didn't watch any for a long time. Then I decided to start watching again because of Goblin Slayer and all that controversy. And I decided to watch Shield Hero for the same reason now. So I'm 2 for 2 on anime because I watch because of the controversy now. So I'm just gonna wait every season now to see which anime triggers the right people. And I'm gonna watch that one because it's worked out so far.
Yeah, do you know that on Crunchyroll, these animes aren't even nominated to win prizes?
Yeah, I saw Goblin Slayer got nominated for nothing.
Yeah,
And I enjoyed
very
it a lot. I mean,
interesting.
that was like a. I mean, that's a show that I rewatched the whole show again to finish because I
I
enjoyed that.
really, I didn't like it so much. I mean, the first episode was amazing. The second one was amazing, but then they moved from like the darkness. They moved into light spirited and humor, and it's like it never managed to catch its footing. It's like, what is the tone of this anime? You know, like is it horror or is it,
It became very wholesome by the end, which I mean, I enjoyed it for that aspect. Like, it was just like a fun. I just enjoyed watching it, and obviously because I like the kind of that kind of setting too. So, uh,
Goblin Slayer told me to roll initiative.
uh,
Do you play Dungeons and Dragons?
I don't. I've wanted to for a long time. I never was able to organize a group to play with on a regular basis or anything like that. And now I don't have that much time anyway because I'm on base most of the week anyway these days. So even if I could find people now, which hopefully I will at some point, but I just right now I just don't have time. I don't have time for any games at all. I stopped playing even Hearthstone, which I could play Hearthstone games like 10-minute game or so. Like I even stopped playing that a few months ago because there's just no time. Whenever I'm free, I'm writing. So I need to
Yeah.
give something.
No, you're right. I'm trying to. I'm going to play Warhammer 40K with Arch. I think that's a very
Yeah,
excellent universe. Apparently, it's fascist, according to
of
the
course.
people that.
Of
But
course
it's funny. Yeah, it's funny because if it wasn't fascist, it wouldn't exist in that universe.
Yeah. Yeah, just yeah, I don't know. Meanwhile, I'm just. I guess I also like the Shield Hero. I've been watching that show a lot. Also, I've really enjoyed that so far. So like again, like whatever makes people angry is what I'm gonna watch now because it seems like it's a good show. So
Yeah, too bad a lot of Japanese people are starting to cut. Like I'm noticing
yeah,
they're very resistant to cultural Marxism, but they're starting to slowly crack, and they're saying, "Oh, this is what the foreigners want, and the foreigner market is very important to
yeah. I
us."
saw there was like a story this week with something about Sword Art Online. They were saying they're gonna make some changes based on that kind of stuff or something like that. I don't remember the details.
Yeah, and I
People
was
were
looking at it, and it's like, oh my god, just don't, please, for the love of God. Because the thing is, the gatekeepers are the journalists and the
yeah.
people that actually speak Japanese, and they're the ones that are telling the Japanese people, oh, we really didn't like your anime, we really didn't like your video game. You need to be more sensitive. You need to be more cultural sensitive. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, meanwhile, Goblin Slayer was the most watched anime in America. Like,
Right, but you wouldn't know, right? Like if you
yeah,
wouldn't know because it didn't got any nominations, it didn't get anything like that. So
yeah,
they
they're trying to memory hole it to just let it like disappear and like,
yeah, and not to mention like the way it works is that Japanese people are very polite and they don't want to offend. Like
yeah, yeah,
the way I understand it, like there aren't even that many curse words in the Japanese language. Like if you want to be rude to someone, you stop being polite to them. Like for example. Um, from what I understand, right? The normal way of asking someone to leave is like, "Would you please get out of the car?" Something like that, right? That is standard. And
yeah,
if you tell someone get out of the car, for them that is very rude. Like it signalizes that you have pissed off the person. It's like someone saying to you, "Get the fuck out."
yeah,
So like their whole culture is built around being polite. And I suppose if they find out, oh, we're offending, the Westerner market, and we're offending, the people that are giving us money from the foreign place, blah blah blah. Eventually, they might try to stop offending, I guess.
yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. Unless these people could find a way to show them that most people who watch their shows don't care, but like if you can't do that, then they're going to start thinking that that's what they need to do, and they're going to start doing it, and it's going to slowly creep in there, and then we're going to lose everything.
Yeah, it is. It is the language barrier. That's the problem.
Yeah, you need to find like a connection to like someone who knows the language or something to get involved in the counter SJW stuff and just be able to tell them like, no, this is what's actually happening. People actually don't care. Like, but
Yeah,
it's easier.
the mighty number nine is an issue.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was a big.
Yeah, and it was the language barrier. Like people couldn't reach the guy to tell them that his choice of hiring isn't the best.
Yeah, and then that project died. I think is right.
Yeah, eventually they fired the woman, and by then it was too late, and the game wasn't that
Yeah,
great, as I understand it. So
yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I was noticing that only 206 people are watching, and it's like, what the hell? This is a Saturday. Like I usually get like 500 on a Saturday, but apparently people aren't getting notified.
Yeah,
Has anyone got notifications of this? Like, let me know in the chat.
oh, I know I didn't get one on my phone, and I'm subscribed. So, uh,
Yeah, I think it's a YouTube bug though. It's happening to a lot of people, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, no one got a notification. So
yeah, that happens. Yeah, I know I've seen that happen before. Other people mention that on other streams, and yeah, I don't know. At least for now, it seems like it's just a bug and not YouTube deliberately doing it. Which, for all we know, they might do at some point. But
yeah, like
for
some
now,
people are saying that since YouTube bought like Google bought the website rather than building it, they might not know how to fix it.
yeah,
Like for
yeah,
instance, comments disappearing, that type of shit. It's not that they want to sell it. It's like people are assuming that they're just stupid and they don't know how to fix it.
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's yeah, one of those things. Or it can even say that like they're not going to do anything intentionally, but like if they say, oh, some people we don't like didn't get notifications about this stream, then maybe we just won't fix it. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of ways to look at it, but yeah.
Anyway, man, thanks for coming here. And if
Yeah.
you're available, what do you say next Saturday? We have another talk. Maybe talk about politics or something.
Yeah, sure. Most weeks I'm home for the weekend. I get off like basically out of every 3 weeks I gotta have to be on base. 1 week out of every three, basically for the weekend to be on my job there. But usually I'm home and yeah, I'm usually available Saturday. Saturday, especially this time of year, it's very easy. Saturday night because Sabbath ends early, so it's easy to manage.
Oh, come on. Hamas isn't going to invade if you're not on the base. Just
No,
relax.
for sure. My base is not even near Gaza anyway, so it's not. No. But I mean, I have to. If I have to be there, I have to be there. I can't like have a choice.
And just tell them it will be fine without you. Just tell them to relax.
Yeah, I don't mind that much actually once in a while because like when I'm on base the whole weekend, I get to have like nothing happens at all for the whole weekend.
There
I'm
you go.
sitting at my job where I sit at a desk for like 12 hours at a time and do like almost nothing. So I get to write my book. I've written over 2 books in the army already, like in less than like in basically a year, because I know I have so much time on my hands. I can just sit with a computer at the desk and do a little bit of work every hour, and that's it. And then I just do my own stuff the whole time. So I'm basically getting paid to write books, and so I mean, it's worked out nicely. It's a boring job, but it worked out nicely for my own purposes. So like I just put out a new book this last week, like a third book in my series. I wrote the third book in the series on the base. I wrote the fourth book on the base already that I'm editing, that I'm revising now, but I'm writing book 5 now also that I'm in the middle of because it's literally all I do now.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you for being here. I'm sorry we couldn't get more people watching. No notifications went out, but hopefully people will see it.
I guess if you're, yes, I guess I can plug my books really quick also.
Sure, I'll put them into the link.
Yeah, basically it's just it's like a space opera sci-fi, very big scope stories, very fun action stuff. Basically anybody who liked Star Wars when it was good or liked Mass Effect when it was good will like my books because that's stuff that I enjoyed for most of my life, like Star Trek 2 and things like that. Just fun action stuff, big scale. Like I said, big scale. Like it's a whole galaxy worth of stuff going on now as of book 3, and like the 3 books are already out now, and I'm hopefully going to do getting another 2 books out over the rest of the year. So
are there big titty women? Because that's important.
well, you see my avatar here. I mean,
Yeah.
This is the cover of book 3.
I see. Okay.
So
Yeah.
I have cat people in the book too. I have one of the main characters is a cat person. He's on the cover
I'm
of book 1.
interested. Yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah. So like I said, all my characters are aliens, so I have a lot of different options to work with here. So I have that. I have cat people. I have bird people. I have lizard people. I have space elves because why not?
Yeah. Anyway, give me the links to the books. I'll put them into the description. And thank you for being here. I'll see you next week. I'll see you next week if you're available.
Yeah, sure. That sounds good.